Call the meeting to order at 1:01.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Polly.
Here.
Trustee Lappin. Clerk Palovich here. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Here.
Trustee Kroll,
Here.
Trustee Reiner.
Here.
Supervisor Kozibowski.
Here. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda.
So moved. I'll support it.
Wow.
That's how we get through meetings. Everybody's here, so we could make changes to it.
Yeah, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Not sure you guys should be working.
Discussion.
Isn't sure.
But all in favor of adopting the agenda?
Aye.
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 Opposed? This is the first opportunity for comment. Yep. Nobody's online.
Is there anybody online?
No.
It's gone already.
Anybody in person or public comment? What big guy? This meeting is possibly our last, possibly not our last budget workshop. Oh. Starting at the beginning.
Maybe 3 out.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Can we just go like,
What?
if anybody has anything on revenue for general
Yes.
fund, let's just
Yep.
address that, and then if nobody does, go to the next department, and so we
Absolutely.
can kind of.
So we're starting on page 1. Any suggestions, comments, questions on the revenue portion?
I think they've been pretty much established. That was the best, they're our best estimate as to what state revenue sharing would be and all the other given revenue streams.
I think if we go at department, maybe nobody has any questions, just move on to the next.
Okay. Moving on to page 2.
Board of Trustees.
The Board of Trustees. Any questions? Supervisor, any questions?
I'm just curious, is the supervisor planning on taking the raise?
Yes. The
Clerk.
clerk section. Board of Review. From page 4 number. Professors section, anything? Building and grounds. Liquor law, we're on page 6 here, liquor law. Fair department.
That's not,
It's not.
no.
The building inspector section.
The only question I had was on, when I did a little bit of research on the workers' compensation, it seemed like he in fact did have, I don't think he was included in the audit. I think,
Building official. You think it was Bruce that was?
correct. So I don't know if that is in the right spot or not. Um, so I don't know if there's been any follow-up on that.
I mean,
Right.
what do you mean by in the right spot? Like
So-
the workers' comp for Bruce is in the right spot?
Is he the building inspector?
He is the mechanical and plumbing inspector.
Right, so I
So
wonder,
if we have to pay workers' comp on him, it does come
Would it
out
come out
of
of
building
there?
inspector.
all right,
Okay.
well, I would still look into the idea
Okay.
because when you and I spoke, it sounded like that was an old contract that he had and that it didn't have some of the current language.
Right, I think we need to update his
I
contract.
agree. And so I think if we upgrade the contract, that we could probably eliminate that.
Okay.
Yes.
You're talking about the work comp line,
Yes,
1,300.
I reviewed the audit on the workers' compensation, and he was the only one that showed as an uninsured subcontractor. And so, based upon the language of his contract, it wasn't very clear. And so outside of clarity, the insurance company is probably going to err on the side of caution and charge the appropriate amount for his workers' compensation. So if we just update the contract to show him clearly as an independent contractor and that he's responsible for
His own employees and
all the things that we usually do within those current contracts, then I think you could get that to more than likely zero.
you've got experience.
I've done this a couple of times.
Which were,
Thanks. Does he have any employees? Do we know?
right, I think we just
I
need to
don't
leave
think
it.
he
for now.
does, and I don't think he's an LLC. I think he's a sole prop. And I think there's a way around that. I think you sent me that contract, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
In my personal experience, yeah, I'm a sole proprietor now, and I don't need to have court comp.
Right.
And nobody's paying.
Even if he's a LLC, you can screw it.
So electrical, mechanical, plumbing, we're good with that. The highway, streets and bridges. Welfare. And you said these line items are empty, we'll take those, right?
Yeah, we'll have to make them inactive.
Planning commission. Action.
So we made no changes in that. So we're in the black, $424. All right.
Back to that. Is that where the Long Lake thing comes in or no? And Department 754, is that something else?
What page are you on?
Well, I'm back on 8, I think.
What Long Lake thing are you referring to?
Well, you had mentioned, you brought it up.
The Long Lake Association,
Yeah.
it's on the page before page 7 of 20 at the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah, 101-602-820.020.
we did fund that. Okay.
We're on page 9 now.
I'm gonna see the total. We did or did it. $424 for the goon.
Oh, you know.
Wonderful.
Fire department.
I did reach out to Chelsea and Jim, the auditors. And what Chelsea told me is, I told her that we were going to use money from the fund balance, the savings. And she said, all we need to do is type a line on our budget that says something like budgeted use of fund balance to account, to show why we're in the negative.
And
That's what I
that does
thought,
that,
yeah.
okay,
So
we
that's
don't
a
have to put it
revenue
into
line
BSNA,
item,
we
right?
just have.
We don't have to put it into BSNA, but we should put somewhere in here that we have a negative balance, but we're going to use our fund balance.
Yeah, so that you're showing it as an income line or
No, we're not showing it as an in-kind.
Just making it essentially.
A note that that loss is coming out of our savings account.
Okay. I thought you said the line item. Okay.
No.
We do have that much in there.
Oh, yeah.
So that money that's coming out of the savings account talked about, is that 42 grand
Oh, that's 100,000
per year?
for 2 years.
That's what I understood.
So 100 grand for 1 year and then
Right.
100 grand for another year.
Right.
It's, and that's got nothing to do with the general fund, that's coming out of the savings.
Savings account.
I mean, we're talking about this.
That's what we're talking about.
Right. Already came up with 100,000.
Because we've talked about having the fire department use 100,000 from their savings each year. So we get,
Till we do a
hopefully get a
millage.
millage back.
You're gonna want to put the millage in the election of 26.
Yes, we.
But I know that-
So we'll be doing this next year as well, because the millage election will be till either May or August. Hopefully.
And then are they gonna have to pay it back? If they get a millage?
It's the public safety savings account.
Right, but they don't have to pay it back to their savings account.
No. I mean, they'll probably start saving for something else, it's the equipment or something.
Right.
I suppose the only thing that I would sort of just caution us on is that, and I talked to the chief a little bit about this, is that we be careful not to use money out of the savings account to fund payroll, because in 2 years it will go away.
Right.
And so that should be used in the event that we need equipment repairs or something that is an unexpected expense.
I thought that was to help fund and the paid on calls.
That's the 40,000. As I understand it, right?
That 40,000 was a one-time transfer from the savings into their checking to cover the paid on call in this fiscal year.
In this fiscal year. So
Yes.
that's what this 42,000 is for.
Not if we're putting it in
No,
next house.
because
Well, not as an income. Let me backtrack.
So the original was to get us through this year. And then the additional amount is for the next year, this current year that we're doing. Right?
but it's already in the budget.
Right,
For
yeah.
this fiscal year that
Right.
we're working on.
So that 42 grand is already in there for this year to end at this point.
Or
We ended our.
for April
end
1.
This month, end of March.
Right.
Okay, now the new money that will potentially be available from the savings account will start in the new year, and that's 100 grand.
Right.
But we have nothing on paper for this, nothing saying anything.
Other than a note.
We're gonna make a note.
We're going to make a note
Right.
that
It's available money.
it's money available in our fund balance. For the public safety's fund balance.
But are we also doing a 42,000 again this year besides the 100,000?
No,
Okay, so
the 42,000 is in this fiscal year and it's just matches what's in the GL, but they're different.
but we are then
Let me-
out of that
let me-
100,000, we're funding some payroll.
Yeah, I want to make sure I
So I
understand.
guess how do you say out of that 100,000 what we're funding? Like, is the 100,000 going into whatever this 40,000 is? Oh, that shared expense, not a good one. Equipment and furniture, is it going into the gas and oil? We're funding 100,000, but you can't specifically say what GLs that's going into.
I agree, but I want to back up for just a second. On the budget, page 10, under paid on call, EMS fire salary, and then paid on call shift salary. There's two line items for 42,000.
Yes,
So the $42,000, the first one, that is to say,
that is for,
702, that was for sort of the day-to-day paid on call.
that is the $26 flat fee
Right,
when they are at home and get called out.
right. And so
Correct.
then the next line item was to help to fund that shortfall between those hours that needed to be covered in order to have two, possibly three people at a station. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I don't think we ever had three.
Well, two. I mean, you had one full and then at least one paid on call.
Right.
To cover the.
Well,
need
they
to
were
have
supposed to
two-
be doing more than just covering. They were supposed to be doing training.
Well, yeah, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
All the things associated with that period of time in which the paid on call otherwise didn't have to go to their day job and they just
Right.
agreed to do a shift.
Right.
So that $42,000 is not part of that 100,000 or is part of that 100,000?
Well, she's saying.
I can't tell you where that 100,000 falls on each one of these GLs.
All right,
you're saying make up the difference.
let me read.
No,
Let
that's a
me
portion.
rephrase that.
So I would say every GL is a portion of that 100,000.
But I think what-
The future need of 100,000, wherever it might fall.
Where's the need coming from?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna,
No, I think what Steve is trying to ask is that 42,000, was that taken into consideration in that 100,000? That's a complete separate item, a separate thing for just for this fiscal year.
right.
And then for the next fiscal year, I think it's 93,000 or whatever that was agreed on. Whatever, 100,000 for round numbers.
I don't know that number either.
I thought that was the number that was.
All the conversation was a total of 200,000, 100,000 a year, for 2 years, and then it goes away.
If it needs to
Yeah,
come
yeah,
out of
yeah.
the fund balance, if
Yeah,
it doesn't need to come out of the fund balance, then it would stay in there.
That's true, that's
Right.
true.
Did
That,
we do that
that this
already?
money would be
24.
available
25
over that
Yes.
period of time. So this $42,000 for the shift salary, that's just contemplated in this year's budget. Take care of those people that work shifts,
Correct.
period. All right. And then the 100,000 would be sort of as needed, as we
Well,
go along.
If you look at the bottom of our budget, we need 58,000.
Well-
right now.
Well, I guess that's ultimately where I was going
Yeah.
So
to,
there's
is that,
2,000.
so, yeah, I guess that's exactly where I was going, was do we, this is where the note comes in,
Right.
to our balance sheet.
Yeah, well, so on this
To our
last
budget.
page, there will be a note that says something budgeted use of fund balance.
42,000.
No, it would show this
5820.
58,242.
Sorry. I'm sorry, yeah. My brain shut off for a second.
Okay, it's back
All
on.
right, I got you. So
Okay.
we basically, in the fire department, we will be at zero as opposed to a surplus or a negative, basically.
Right.
Maybe.
Gotcha.
Well, go ahead now.
So the 42 grand that's on this page is going to the new year.
Yes.
Yes.
We've already spent 42 grand last year.
We did not spend,
Spent that much.
we did not spend that much.
Okay, but we
But
have
we
taken
off-
money out of that savings fund to accommodate those shift changes or whatever.
Yes,
That's what that money was.
but
for.
we're not going to take that money because they've been put on hold.
I
so-
understand, forget that. So the 42 grand was potential for last year,
Mhm.
which was like, I guess it said for 6 months, the last 6 months we covered it or whatever.
It was a high estimate,
So this 42 grand is gonna be for this coming year,
yes,
for the whole year.
yes,
And now the $100,000 on this note is gonna be, if we need money, it's gonna come out of this savings account if we need it.
correct,
But the general fund is automatically given 200 grand.
correct.
So we could go as high as 300 grand to the fire department out of the general fund.
No,
I'm sorry,
because
you're right.
the savings is the
Yes.
public safety savings.
Right, okay.
So it's money they haven't spent in previous years.
And if we'd agreed last year and they didn't use it all, then that's gonna fall back into that savings, is it not?
Yes, we have never made them pay back the general fund.
No, I know that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, so
I
I
don't even
mean,
wanna go there right now.
Right.
I'll do that when we vote on the budget, but, the, but, so if we budget 42 or whatever, and we didn't use it all, then whatever that amount is, would fall back into the savings.
correct.
I have one question. So we're in a negative over 58,000.
Correct.
We're designating 100,000. For this coming year and 100,000 the following year. But for this year coming up, we have this 100,000, take that out of there and whatever the difference is what they would have to put towards any other GLs for the rest of the year.
If something major happened and they
Right.
needed,
But it wouldn't be a whole true 100,000 because we're gonna subtract out this 58,000.
right, there's not still 100,000 sitting there because they're already getting 58,000 of it. We've
Right,
scheduled
exactly,
58,
so I
right.
get the difference.
Right.
Well, but they don't have a deficit, doesn't look like you're gonna have a deficit for year end of this fiscal year, does it? Have they overspent the budget?
Yeah. But that's because we bought the current activity, they're at a $550,000 deficit, but that's because they bought
The tanker.
the tanker, and that was used with ARPA money and with millage money that was received the years before it.
Well, that should be another note on the thing then for the auditors, but yeah. So we
Well,
did,
the auditors will know that when they ask the questions they ask us, and we have to give them all the documentation.
but basically, we voted here at this board to use ARPA money for that purchase.
Correct.
So somewhere that should be reflected in
They,
record for this fiscal year.
yes, because they go through our ARPA expenditures with a fine tooth comb.
So they're not really 58. I mean, the 58,000 is what we're budgeting for them for next year. But they may have not spend that a whole budget, so.
Right, they may
Yeah.
not spend everything, so it could be actually less than that.
Yeah, we're not gonna hand the fire department an extra 100,000 out of the savings at the beginning of the year.
No.
It's
No,
not the way it's gonna work.
Just reserved.
But right off. the
Wonderful
top,
way to
it's
say it.
To make
58,000.
To make the budget balance.
Heard about that.
is there any more about the fire?
Anybody else?
Chief, did you have anything you want to? Didn't want to ignore you during this.
The brownfield and all the stuff in between moving under the water.
Page 16.
That's 10.
So this is really showing we're paying.
Yes,
How can that be?
because the $200,000 principal payment that we've been putting in as an expense every year truly is not an expense. It should come out of liability. That money is already sitting in a savings account. It's not gonna come out of revenues. I talked to Chelsea. And she said that we don't have to show it as an expense, because what happens at the end of the year, we have to take it out of the expense and show it as a payment on a liability.
What are we talking right now?
The $200,000 bond payment,
Oh,
the last. So she said I can take it off of the expenses and just pay it out of the liability, which will show that we are in balance. And then I don't have to do a year-end journal entry to correct the way it was paid.
And then it'll be done, period.
And this is our last
Right.
payment, and then we are done with that.
So we're over budgeting in that department because of that bond payment. When we went through it the
Yes.
first time.
But we have the $200,000 sitting in a special savings account,
And that's where it's gonna come from. It's
and
not
that's where
coming,
that
it's
payment.
not coming out of next year's.
It's not coming out of any revenues that we're getting in next year's budget.
So how much is in it?
Clear as mud to me.
I don't know what your question is, Norm.
I'm sorry, so how much is in that account that we're taking it out of?
There's about 213,000 in that special account.
So what happens to any excess in
It
that?
it can just be moved into the water fund.
Again,
Yes.
There probably won't be much left.
how happy did? You have to pay it back or something.
Well, I'm shocked that we.
Go ahead, Abby.
So on here under,
That's good.
are you guys ready to keep?
To get that
Moving on
switched
here.
around so this doesn't, number doesn't look bad, because that would have been.
So you've already adjusted that in this document?
Yes,
So
So
what
now we don't
adjustments-
look like we're in trouble there.
right. I already did that one. The 200,000, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that you zeroed it out.
I was
Yes.
doing-
Yeah.
I was moving on to this one.
Okay. Go ahead, Abby.
Oh, I'll get it.
Is that the account that has 2,000, almost 208,000 in it? US 23 waters,
Yes,
Fund.
that would be the one.
that'll come back down to $8,000 then.
That was as of February, so we might have some, that was as of December, so we have some interest in there.
On page 16.
Page 16, we're gonna go down to 592,000,642.000 water sales. This is a number that we estimated at the last meeting based on an increase. So Michelle did the math for us, so I'm gonna adjust that number to a more accurate. Here.
Is that a new line item?
No,
612 or?
no, 642.
642.
Yep, 0.000. So that's gonna be.
Those water sales.
So this is the more accurate, what you're putting in
This
is the more.
accurate. This is with the 10% increase that we discussed and the 3% increase in sewer that we discussed. I'll be changing both of those.
That number going down or up?
They went down.
What are you
Went
moving
down.
them to?
1,566,000 for water sales. 1,154,000 for sewer.
1,154,000.
Okay.
But this includes no capital improvement, right?
Correct.
So these are actually less than what we originally did a budget.
Yes.
Yes, we were able to actually pull around numbers to.
The capital improvement would be reflected in depreciation if we have a figure for that.
What did Russell say?
I don't know, would you say?
Capital improvement would be reflected, we talked about this last time. Capital improvement funding would be based on depreciation
Right.
I
line.
know kept down there.
No, this is just
May
reflecting.
not be
the
enough, but
change.
it's
You better stop having these meetings.
Stop or keep having them, because now we got more money in the budget. Yeah, so depreciation, which is not an outgo,
What
it's
page
the
are you on?
savings, it's on page 18 and that shows 250,000. So that's your capital improvement fund base.
That's really not much.
No, it's not, might not be enough.
We don't have
We have
anything.
another four capital improvements in addition to depreciation. More money over there. I mean, if our budget is a surplus budget for that. Then hopefully if we don't spend more than that. What was our surplus? I think?
Is there a surplus on there that Russ?
Net
can
of
see
revenues. Net revenues of
After that new calculation was.
only
There's not
26.
going to be a surplus. It's gonna be in the red.
Oh, really?
Do you?
So recommended
We wanna
budget
go
26.6.
Just so we're just looking at the water fund so we can
She
see.
just
Sure.
readjusted though. So I think it'll be ours.
Okay,
Okay, goes out of this.
yeah,
You want me to save this or not?
no.
She
Oh, yeah, hit
adjusted
save or you'll
income.
lose the changes you made.
Yeah.
So we should be better.
Oh,
And
well,
just-
it's lower.
Nope, you hit just click on load data.
Oh, it's lower?
Is that what
Yeah.
it says?
Yeah.
Very high.
The one that's highlighted.
Oh, yeah.
And then just when it
Oh,
goes.
so we just changed the
Yep.
1.6 and the 1.3.
Done,
Yeah.
just water and
So-
sewer.
1.5
Yeah,
and 1.1.
And then the rest of this is over.
yep, you want all that.
The 1,500.
So what are we in the hole?
100,566,000. Okay.
So we're in the negative 153,000 in the water department.
So the,
Negative now,
Mhm.
after you just put lower numbers in there?
For revenue.
Yeah.
We lowered
Sorry,
revenue, not
sorry.
expenses.
So
Okay, I got you.
1,150,000.
Yes, the number got bigger, but in the wrong direction.
that's gonna be hard to find.
But you're right, bigger it's in the wrong direction. Hendrick sent it in. I had a call on it, I really called it.
He's a training today.
So do we have a new number for
Yeah,
page
so
18
there's-
this morning?
Yeah, it's 153,000 in the hole.
153,400.
That great big red number.
That bottom line, those three bottom lines must stay there when you move that top part up and down.
Yeah.
Cause I was looking at the
Yes.
GIs on the left and they weren't making sense, that's why I didn't think it was gonna be updated one.
We're not raising revenue enough. for wage increase, or our water increase.
Right.
Oh,
But we,
No, we have a-
we made a motion this.
No,
Most of the rest,
no.
it's based on the 5%, 3%,
10%.
or 10%, 3%.
And 3%.
But the number you put in doesn't reflect 10 or does it?
It does.
Yeah, I just saying.
We overestimated a little bit based on just,
Cover the issue.
we just did a generalized
You mean
like
addition?
increase last time.
No,
And then we were actually
If we
actually
increase
to
this
pull real
stuff,
numbers and then apply
increases, I see.
that to see what we get.
So with the 10 and 3, we're still short.
That is.
Yeah.
Yes,
But that is what Dawn predicted, that we'd still be
Yes.
short
That's the
this
we
year.
will still be short
Looks like
for a couple years, I think 2 more years,
For-
2 years.
And then the
And then
third
it
year
would-
we break even, and
Yes.
then the fourth and
Yes.
fifth year is when we start to,
And that's with
Yeah.
raising rates for the first 3 years,
yes.
next 3 years.
If we raise rates for the next 5 years.
So,
every year. for the
I'm
next
sorry.
5 years.
Yes,
I'm sort of back to my
12, okay.
15 and 5,
I thought I was listening to something.
no,
No,
instead of 10.
I mean, that sounds great. I like what it would do to the.
I don't,
numbers.
because when you get to the bottom line, it doesn't mean that many dollars on the increase per bill.
No, it doesn't, but.
It's still a big jump. For the-
We also don't really.
It's a
have
difference between
anything
$8
built
and
in for
$12, I think.
Capital improvement either.
But people,
Correct. And that's the reason that it's been able to float this long.
Yeah.
in the rep.
I think we gotta
So
change
we're,
that.
right, and which is why we're in the position that we're in and we need to make the changes and we're doing that now. We're trying to do that,
I missed what you said. What did you say?
but it won't be an overnight change.
But we need to put money aside for capital improvement.
Oh.
So is 10 and 3 obviously is not enough, is maybe 12 and 3. Cause we still got a deficit at 10 and 3.
Right. In discussion with Dawn, we talked about what that would look like. And the rate increase over 5-year period and this year, this coming year and the next year would still be in a deficit. The third year we would break even or have a little bit extra. And then the fourth and fifth year of that would be then in the black and be having extra. That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. It's selling it to the public. That's the,
Well, and that's why I'm wondering if, well, they don't get to vote on it.
oh, they don't,
but-
of course.
But, you know, I'm wondering if it would look better overall if instead of 5% and 10%, whatever, yeah, 10% increases, we do the bigger increase in the first year and then have lower increases the next 2 years.
Or is that a
The
10
one
and
thing
3
that-
every year?
This is a 10, well,
10, 10,
the
10,
discussion with
5,
Dawn
5.
was a
10,
10,
10,
10,
10,
10, 5, 5, and then 3% overall, and so we're 3% every year.
3%.
Which I'm happy to get back in contact with her and see what that would look like if we changed it. We increase it some, I think we just need to be cognizant and
Remember
where
that,
that's going.
that 2%, that $2 per quarter roughly represents that which would be the
It's-
minimum amount. So if you consume more water, of course, your bill will be more. So it's not just $2. It could be $10, it could be $20.
We figured it to be on the minimum bill, it would be $2, it would be an $8 increase per quarter.
Yeah, on the minimum
On the
bill.
minimum bill,
Right.
correct.
I don't know how many people pay the minimum amount.
We're working on getting those numbers. We're actually able to have our water billing clerk pull the reports for all that. So
Okay.
we're working still on getting all those numbers, which is why I said in the beginning, it's maybe our last, but we better not last meeting. Go ahead.
So what kind of input have you had from F&V as far as their expertise on how and which way we should go?
F&V was shocked that we were not doing yearly inflationary increases. And they strongly recommended that we do that.
When did they get shocked? Just now?
Yes, in the last meeting that
Last
we had, when
Yeah.
Cass said, I don't understand why you haven't been doing those increases. Because according to what the
How long
records
have
that
they
we had.
been doing our stuff? 3 years?
It's not up to them.
It's
to-
not them.
No.
But why didn't they mention it to us?
I don't know that they did or they didn't.
Rates are not there.
I understand that, but
But we were supposed to have a increase when the city raised ours last time, and we never did. That was like 3 years ago.
I think the last increase. was
October.
20, right?
October 1st of 2022
I
is the
thought
last.
we did raise it, was 22.
Yes.
I think we talked about it, but nothing ever happened.
so whether we like it or not, we gotta raise the rates higher than what we'd like to, and it's gotta be done. What are we gonna do? Is there somebody that is like, is there a committee? Is there somebody that's working on this?
So I've been working on this actively with the rate specialist. Who we hired to help separate the rates. And that would be Dawn, who we've met with, and Michelle and I have been actively working with her to do that. We're also working with F&V.
Okay.
And then again, the water billing clerk is helping to pull reports so that we can get more accurate numbers to figure this stuff out. Because truthfully, the way that it looked to me when I started looking at it and the first conversation I had with Dawn was that the numbers were just pulled out of the air to balance the budget. And we are actively working to fix that.
I think what we were hearing from the supervisor's chair previously is that when the litigation ended, I think we were looking at the fund of money as opposed to the rates. And it doesn't look like the way we should have gone,
What do you mean fund of money versus?
$3 million.
Oh.
And so when we ask about raising rates other than 22, when we said we had to. And that's because the city had increased rates and we thought we better follow it, I think, my recollection. But I don't know that we were focused on the right reason not to raise them every year, as Supervisor just said. Because it's an inflationary issue. Now, what was inflation in 2024? Steve, you probably know.
I don't, but I think it was somewhere around 2.6%.
I'm surprised that it's that low.
Yeah, I don't, I think the,
Of course, that's an election year, always is lower.
Yeah. yeah,
Nonsense. It was closer to corner.
Yeah, I mean, out of my
2%
pocket.
in your grocery store,
yeah.
Well, it depends on what
Excluding
you're
eggs.
I mean, our costs of living have gone up 30% in the last 4 years.
So we're also working actively right now to adjust the costs for inflation on all of the other FUP things that we're doing. So for example, I asked Nathan Lytle to pull some information for me regarding the meters. And we found that we've actually been losing money on meters because those haven't been, the price hasn't been increased to inflation what we're paying. So we're actively working on that as well to get those numbers to be more accurate. And he did also tell me, keep in mind the fact that the price of brass fluctuates greatly. So we're working on trying to find a more appropriate rate for all of that stuff as well.
So do you mean that
The meter
what we
fees.
pay on a
fees.
meter, we're not
Correct.
recouping the money back
No,
from the
correct.
we're
customer?
not.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
We're working on it now though. We've noticed it and we're doing the best we can to fix it.
It's just these shocking things. we
Well,
find out.
I know, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's my job. So you're welcome.
So when are we gonna become serious about making this rate change? When we get all the back together?
I think we're good March for April.
We're shooting for April 1st. We need to obviously do that in a board meeting. Full board meeting, but that's the goal right now. And then we also discussed changing the billing to monthly billing. So that's all stuff that we're working on. And
Yeah, that's a cost comparison thing, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, so it's a
Big
a
cash
cash
flow.
flow situation. So the point of that, well, also helping the township with our cash flow also will help to disperse the billing from getting a lump sum bill every 3 months to paying a specified amount for the 2 months and then paying the difference in that bill for the 3rd month. So we're hoping that the direction of that is helping the customers to be able to budget for that better. So instead of like the base bill is, I think 170.44. So if we break that down, we would do the first 2 months of the billing period would be $56 and some change on per month. So month 1 and month 2, each would be $56 and some change. Month 3, if they're only using the minimum of the 170.44, the 3rd bill would stay the same, 56 and some change. If they're using over, then that bill will fluctuate depending on what they're using.
Reflect their
Right.
actual cost.
So
Correct.
which one is squares the account up? The last quarter?
Yes, the last month, not the last
Each
quarter,
month of each
it's the
quarter.
last month. So right now we're billing quarterly.
The
So-
last-
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah,
But,
so,
yeah,
so you'd
so-
square up in December, let's just make an assumption for
No, in the
11
third
months?
month.
On the
On the
third
third
month
month.
of each billing cycle.
So right
So-
now you get your bill,
So
let's
the
say,
third would
quarter.
bring up. this
right, so
month, the
let's, so
third
you
would
get
be
your bill right
square.
now, let's say January, February, and then March is all one bill and you pay
Yeah,
the bill April
Yeah, I
15th,
got
right?
it, I
Okay.
got it.
So 56, and then either 56 or the
So you'll
difference.
pay it in the 4th month.
Yeah. Just.
Does that make sense?
7th month.
It makes sense to me.
I know it makes sense to you. Okay, and then some of the other things, since we're talking about that we're looking at doing in the water department are like, changing over the meters to the telemetry read, which this is putting us in the right direction by monthly billing to do that. And the telemetry read meters are the ones that, pick up on like a daily basis. They send a signal to a radio and then it updates in our system.
So-
That's how you would eventually figure out like, oh, there's a big.
We don't
water-
even have to drive down the street to read the meter. They come
There's
to
two
us.
ways, there's 2 different ways to do that from what I've been told. One is we put radio antennas throughout our area. So like we put them up on the water tower, for example, maybe on this building, there's a tower right there, so probably not, but either way, we put them in different areas throughout town. We would have somebody give us the, I forget what it's called, but like the radio base that can pick up, so we knew if we were missing anybody, like, let's say, for example, my neighborhood doesn't reach a radio. Then the field operators would know that every month they still have to drive through my neighborhood with their handheld, but it would still read to their handheld, so they no longer have to go door to door to read the meters. So this, again, is putting us in the direction of that.
So that you're putting EMS out there. You're gonna put up antenna. Yeah, let's say you're gonna sit in this building, you'll be able to read all the meters at one
Correct,
time.
all the meters would come to the water billing clerk, to her computer, and they would update in real time And this was the example that I gave at the last meeting where they were able to tell that somebody was stealing their neighbor's water at 2 o'clock in the morning and filling 55-gallon drums. Because from the hours of 2 to 4 a.m., the water usage was increased on a daily basis. But the homeowner said, I'm not using my water, I'm sleeping.
So
So they were.
I guess the one question I guess I have on all of this is. Who's paying for this?
Well, nobody, right.
Cause it seems to me we're talking a couple of million.
Yep, and
bucks.
but in order to be able to do this, we have to make a plan. So I have to have costs, I have to have ideas of where we're at. Before I can even look for money, I'm looking for grants if we end up getting the USDA loan. But in order to do that, I have to have the numbers in front of me and be able to say, well, this is what we
Yeah.
need and this is where we're going.
I know that we looked at this a couple of years ago, I think it was at least. And I think it was $2 or $3 million or something like that. For
2 or 3 billion?
million. Yeah.
But if you're gonna do it, I think you automate it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you
So
go,
the thing is-
you go for a grant to help do
Right,
it.
and so the thing is that the meters that we're currently changing out for, I think they're called the Neptune meters, but Nathan Lytle knows this like the back of his hand. We are currently switching over to those meters right now, and those are the ones that are capable of the telemetry. So he's also pulling me a report to tell me how many we have installed throughout the township and dates, because they have, I think, a 20-year lifespan. So we also need to take into account that in 20 years, we're not trying to change over all the meters. It's about a 3-year process to do 1/3 of the area at a time. So we're actively working on doing these things, but you can't budget for it if you don't know how much it costs and where we're actually at. So that's what we're trying to.
And if you're gonna go look for a grant, you gotta have that number.
Right, or if we're looking at the USDA loan interest loan, we still need to know, and we can't, that's why we're doing the separation of the funds. We can't even apply for that without having the funds completely separated, which is what we're doing.
So that loan would be a 40-year loan?
I'm not sure what it is. Is that,
I guess if
Everybody-
it's a 20-year life, I guess it'd be a 20-year.
does that make sense though?
Yeah.
It definitely makes sense. And we
It makes sense,
certainly
but-
talked about it and,
Whether we're big enough,
That's more the reason to put some money away.
right?
Either.
But I have no idea how much to put away until I know how many meters we need, what that cost of the meters. Nathan was gonna ask for what the price was for like a bulk shipment of them. Because there again, if we're doing 1/3 of the township at a time, then we can order maybe in bulk 1/3 of the meters. Or see what the price difference is. So we're.
Well, and I'd be interested to know how much it reduces the services we get from F&B.
and in the meantime, boys, we gotta find, we gotta change that color red.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than drawing from fund balance or, which we can't. That's.
Yeah,
the
the
opposite
only
way.
thing we're gonna be doing is just depleting our surplus.
Exactly, and that's
So-
our capital improvements.
It certainly can be part of that, you bet. And
That's why I don't like the fire department using up their surplus, because it's the same thing. We're gonna have a major expense someday and we're gonna need a few $100,000.
yeah, and I mean, the way I guess, I get it. I understand.
So the only other way you do it, and I don't see a way to do it with the fire department, but here, the other way to do it is to balance the budget by increasing rates.
Well, the one thing that we haven't gotten to yet, and it has to do with the purchasing of water and sewer. So on page 17, the one thing we probably will be able to true up better is under the sewer purchases, 830.000. During the trial, the judge had determined that the 23% usage was reasonable. And so it's reasonable, but that's going to follow through into the next trial. And so our lawyer, with the help of his rate experts, can probably establish what the truer number would be. This 570,000 may not be an accurate number. And so once we can plug in what the court has essentially said that we can plug in, then we can true up that number better.
Is that the same percentage number that ended up somewhere past 60%.
No, this is strictly the sewer. The 61% usage was water, which the court deemed to be unreasonable. But the sewer at 23% was deemed to be reasonable. And so I guess one would assume that if it was a reasonable in the first trial, that it's likely to be reasonable in the second trial.
the
So I
sewer.
don't think we're going to spend much time dealing with the sewer since we've effectively already dealt with it. And so that 570 number will be different. I don't know which direction it will be different, but it will be different. I suspect it'll be down.
But it's not gonna be 150 grand.
No, it probably won't be that. You're right. Might be- I don't know, but you're right. I don't think it'll be 150,000, but it'll be something less than that. And unfortunately, we can't even deal with the water. And then in the next level of reality is that once all the dust is settled, then these will be trued to a wholesale rate. Don't know what that is yet. And so that could be, in the next month and a half, or it could be in the next 2.5 years. Who knows?
Can you?
Hopefully not. But
Be
those two line items are up in the air. And of course, legal is up in the air. It's conceivable that three of those numbers are way high.
No, we don't know.
I don't know where the reality falls.
So I mean, I can adjust the legal down and balance the budget.
Yeah, I don't think we should do that.
Just saying.
All right, maybe take
Yes, every time
70.
you're on the phone with that, you gotta say, they're charging me $200 an
Yeah,
hour.
when you're on the phone with
I have to
Think-
go by.
Tick, 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 tick.
Right.
Yeah, just don't let it get to 15 minutes.
Hate to budget. They should never tell a lawyer how much there is to spend on legal.
That's
No.
public information.
That's my problem.
They are very, very cognizant of that, I can tell you.
I mean, we increased maintenance on system to 300,000. Do we want to leave it at 250? I don't know.
You just don't know.
I know, but they're all unknowns.
Well, the
Yeah.
problem with that is that out of the
Take 50
3 years that we're looking at, 2 of them were over
I
350
know.
or over 300.
50 out of maintenance, 50 out of legal, and 50 out of sewer.
So the water purchase really is that much more than buying the sewer. On here.
Arbitrary, that's arbitrary, but I'd be okay with that. Then we're gonna have to watch it real close.
I missed something.
Oh, we were talking here
He said
between
taking 50 out of each. one of those
three
accounts.
three things, legal,
Out of maintenance,
legal,
sewer,
sewer and maintenance.
legal.
I don't feel like we have that much in legal.
What?
300,000, that's almost
Yeah.
half of what we had before,
Yeah,
right?
well, I don't think we're gonna be having trials this year.
That's where we
We-
got that number from, was based on
Well,
what the.
Worst case scenario.
Right, worst case scenario, if we went to trial, how much could we get in before the end of the fiscal year?
It might happen before April 1 of next year. It's possible.
Where does Dawn get paid out of the professional and contractual?
Professional services.
I think so.
She's in
Professional
this
and
fiscal year.
contractual.
But she'll be going into the next year too, don't you think? 25.
Are we dealing directly with Dawn as opposed to through the law firm?
Yes.
Right.
Don was hired in prior to me being.
We
Yeah.
voted on it.
Yeah, one time I thought, yeah, that was an option, I think, unless I'm confusing her with someone else, another expert, but I thought at one point, one of the options was to hire her through the law firm and have that included in legal fees. But,
Oh, for
right,
client privileges.
yeah,
The other thing that is potentially out there, although it's not likely that it would be in next year's budget, is that if we agree to settle this second suit, one of the expectations is that the city and the township will share equally in the cost of a rate expert. And that's probably gonna be in that 100,000 each range.
Been there, done that, didn't we?
That's what I was gonna say, we've done that.
So we have history on that.
Why didn't it work the first time?
Because we both hired.
Separate.
I thought we liked, no, we had an independent.
Yeah, we did. Well, we
Yeah,
both.
remember, we went and met,
This,
she gave us a report, to City Hall and all that.
Yeah, they want us to.
That's the-
we want that to be
That's
combined,
Don.
I know.
We have worked
Yeah.
with her.
and they want it to be, as does the township, want it to be the model by which we move forward on.
Right.
So that in theory,
Well, they didn't like that model.
they're warming up to it.
Still,
Okay, that's all I need.
Whatever we do, it's gonna be arbitrary anyways, right? So I think we just gotta make a decision.
are you making a motion? Steve,
I'm just throwing it out there.
So what is your suggestion?
Well, I mean, what if you were to take 50 out of sewer, 50 out of water, and maybe 50 out of maintenance? Something along those lines.
There's part of me that says that the 300,000 eagle is high.
Yeah.
I really feel
So what
as
do you-
though,
I feel like you're better at guessing that because you work with them more.
well, the only.
Abby, quit talking in the morning.
I can't guess.
I can't talk to you, Michelle, so I have to hang up, but.
Based upon Chris's expectation of a worst case scenario with legal being in that 300, and that legal, I presume, also includes expert witnesses. And as far as we got with the settlement of the first suit, I believe everyone is motivated to try to come to a conclusion. And from the last, when we drafted up the motion to give to the or the settlement agreement to give to the court, it just seems to me that the only thing out there right now is this joint water modeling expert, which we would all agree to, and then just determining usage. And so I really feel as though we've covered most of it, and that I feel as though we will be able to settle this without going to some lengthy trial.
When's your next
I
Court.
think the 27th, as far as I know.
February,
No, March,
March?
17th rather.
March 17th.
That, I don't think that's been inked yet, though.
Aaron Gobra. Okay,
Oh, that's right.
Spring break.
Making
I
that.
think it has. I was under the impression. that-
All right, could very well be. And so I look forward to that.
Will you be back?
I will be down there.
Oh.
And so I can do it by Zoom.
Oh, yeah, the depreciation will be moved over too, which is gonna put us at another 250,000 in
You
the
know what?
red.
So what I,
I think 250 is not a
I-
bad number.
that's kind of that's exactly where I was gonna go. With regard to the legal, I feel as though we could probably drop that by 50. I really do.
it's 968.
Not yet,
Maybe.
968.
This way, or else.
Hmm?
This way.
And then we could pretty easily true up. If Eric, when you contact,
Oh, yeah.
then I think that we could get a very true expectation as to what the sewer costs will be based upon that agreed upon percent.
But it just increased.
So I just moved the depreciation over. Sorry.
So,
Now we're at 250.
Now we're-
Well, I was gonna ask
The
about
depreciation
depreciation.
was that
Do we-
transfer.
Is that, I mean, that number is realistically probably not going up, it's going down, isn't it?
well, I don't know. When I look
Well,
at
what-
this,
Wouldn't the depreciation schedule,
depreciation.
Well, I
went
guess
from
it has
240,
gone up.
And then it went up last
yeah,
year, and I don't know what the,
we can't depreciate past zero. I suppose. Can't have a negative.
Wouldn't be,
Problem with putting depreciation, it's only gonna exacerbate.
And we're also this to the general liability insurance.
Is there a reason why you left it at zero?
No,
depreciation.
no, just missed that.
To answer your question succinctly,
No, I think when
Alright.
when I did this last time, I didn't
There-
bother
there's
to move
just
over,
line
so I just
item.
picked it up where it was.
So
on the next
doesn't the
page.
15,000 need to be moved over to for general liability? insurance?
Yeah,
no. Didn't we talk
9:15,
about that? We don't
about
really,
halfway down.
well, the only liability, well, I guess we did have some liability exposures.
it's liability and property,
Yeah, the property.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
so
don't,
that needs to be moved over.
yeah.
Okay, so now we're back at what's the total?
68,400.
Bum-ba-dum-bum. Bum-ba-dum-bum.
260,400.
No,
268, right?
Yeah, it's $268,400.
Can't be sure, but I think we're going in the wrong direction.
We are.
And maintenance and repair didn't get moved over either, grounds and maintenance and 10,000.
Just stop looking at the budget, Laura.
That's another 10 grand though, that would have to be moved over too. You want the GL?
Nope, I got it. Like I said, I didn't move everything over. I thought that's. And here we go.
Oh,
I hadn't moved
basically, what
everything
we're
over. Yeah,
doing-
we jumped put the cart before the horse.
All right, so did you take, going back to
I changed,
expenses?
yep, I took 50,000 out of legal and made it 300 to 250,000.
50,000 out of
I
legal.
took 50,000 out of sewer purchase and 50,000 out of water purchase.
And then-
Did you say 250? I'm sorry, out of sewer and water?
50 each out of those, so the
Oh.
original was 570,000 for sewer and I
Yeah.
reduced it to 520,000.
Okay,
And then water was 1,150,000 and I reduced it to 1,100,000.
Well, really, honestly, all we're doing is just, we're just loading numbers to balance a budget, whether.
Right.
and then did you add in the 10,000 for,
Yes, I
Grounds
moved
maintenance.
that, let's see, I moved that over and I moved over the general liability and the depreciation. So they're
I know
all
what are
moved
we
over
at now?
what was general
Is
liability?
it still 260?
So really,
268.40. So, oh, I'm sorry, 278.40. So if I add back.
So I bring it above the-
1,000,
It's
Depreciation.
96500.
we adjust,
Never
which
came
I can
over.
do. I wanna do that.
What do you, I don't know what you're adding back.
So I'm saying I already adjusted these three numbers here. And
Right.
50,000 of each. Can we
Okay,
go back to what it was before we did that?
No.
We're doing that to balance. But we're not going to,
We're
so
not
we
gonna
can have an
balance.
actual number. That's-
well, we're in problem, we're basically. By not bringing our rates up faster. We're gonna be 3 years without funding much of depreciation. That's basically. what we're doing.
Do we know how much it would be if we did
Yeah.
increase them
I
to?
don't know.
the
We-
next level
we would
he's
just have to
talking?
figure-
Forecasting,
map it
like
out.
that is a good idea.
You think it's something to,
But I
Right,
think it's
let's,
going to
uh,
20%.
Let's take a big chunk right away.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. You
Yeah.
guys laughed at me the other day. when I said that. That's what I thought.
Oh, because who knows where we'll be in 3 years,
Exactly.
and that's gonna continue to grow.
so now,
I'm still back there.
without regard to that note that we're gonna put in the fire department,
15, 12, 10.
we are about $325,000 in the red.
What's our fund balance in this? department?
Well, it's 2.3 million because we got the escrow fund.
Yeah, but that's gotta be. Oh. It's still real money there, right?
It's still what?
I'm just thinking
real
that,
money.
yeah, I mean,
I don't know what that means.
there's two sides of
It's
this.
in a savings account.
Yeah, that's real money of 2 point. So
Right,
we paid the 40, whatever it was.
400,000,
To the
General.
general fund.
2.358.
And as we spend it, it's gone.
But
Absolutely, you know, and,
I don't think we're at a point where we can decide anything on that.
but I
money
mean,
yet.
we don't have, like, you know, you gotta think of it from, I do think of it from two different ways. One is, what's the net amount that the ratepayers paid when we consider all the legal fees for the last 10 years? And I don't think it's that much real money there. If you consider that out of that, we had to pay several $100,000. Maybe several, or 1 or 2 million.
Millions.
So, yeah, we had to go through that process. We're stuck in it. And we got a good result from going through all that legal. Hopefully for the future, a little more work to do.
Mhm.
So I guess you're gonna have to balance it between just reducing the depreciation, knowing that those funds are there for capital improvement now to 2.6. And that's how we're gonna have to use it.
Now, remember, we're probably in addition to,
that depreciation is a year-end adjustment done by the auditors.
Well,
yeah, so all
So
we're,
it's not like a number that.
it's
we
not
do.
we're spending, but we're saving. That's for savings for capital improvements. Right?
For depreciation.
It's.
It's a real number because you're taking it out of your budget. And so you're basically.
But if you put that to zero and then the auditors do their adjustment, we're over
Whatever,
budget.
right.
right. Yes.
That's my
And
point. So you fund it then. You're basically funding the non-expenditure of depreciation from your fund, which is right now showing $600 and some thousand. I'm reading it right.
That number's not right. Are you talking about, are you on page 18 of 20?
Yep.
So we're right now in the hole.
But my point is, you've also got the 2.3 or 3 million, I think it is.
2.358.
Yeah.
remember, it's likely that
That we're getting
There's gonna be
interest on
money
every day.
So we're gonna have to
that
pay
we
it.
owe.
Yeah.
So we have no idea what that number is. So that 2.2 million, whereas we have it literally in the bank, we don't know what our liability is.
Well, then how do you see making up the deficit if you're not willing to increase the rates now by more than the 10%?
Well, I completely agree with what you're saying. That
What did he say?
is the conundrum that we are in.
Oh, that, I thought he said I'm mad.
Well, that too.
I just don't see any other way
I
of
mean,
making.
we
this
don't know
up.
how our year end's gonna look, but it sounds like you think that in the water fund at least, we're gonna have a deficit this year for this calendar fiscal year.
And we probably would have last year too, if things weren't adjusted to make them look like they balance.
Which is what we'll have to do this year.
Well, last year we had ARPA funds that was put in it.
And
So
we
that's-
won't have, we probably won't have, we have positive cash flow only because we don't have any money put in capital improvement.
I
So
mean,
that-
we're already 992,000 in the red for this year.
I don't have it in my pocket. Don't know if there's a need for solutions.
That's why we're talking to people, we're talking to, trying
I
to find
think-
solutions.
I think we have to do the increase. I don't know how else you get there. That's a lot of money. Just too many unknowns. With all the other
Would it
stuff.
hurt to proceed, get the calculation of what you'd be looking at and then compare it to what?
No, absolutely not. We can talk to them.
You want water, you gotta pay for it.
I'm just saying that way you might have a better idea.
Well, I think once we talk to Eric, we can get some of those numbers figured out. It's a little bit more accurate. I can talk to Don and for the reruns and the rate talk.
What would Eric figure out?
Eric was figuring out the,
Well, we could figure out what a percentage rate,
yes.
if we
yeah,
changed it to 15%, how much more income that would generate.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if Don puts it into her model, it would show us, it could give us that projection too.
Of when
Instead of,
we're,
yeah.
yeah.
That's a better idea.
So today's probably not our last budget.
Okay, but
Didn't that-
can we agree that we're good on the general and the public safety and that we just need to meet on the water yet?
I would agree with that. Anybody else?
So is it realistic though that we'll have some type of rate by the time we come back?
I think we can. So when are we gonna meet again?
On the
We gotta
Tuesday of next month.
do it soon, right? What's our timeline?
March 27th.
Oh, so we got a little bit of time.
Well, Steve's leaving, right? You're leaving when, Steve?
I haven't decided exactly which day it will be, but probably from the end of this month till the 10th of April-ish.
You guys
So-
want to do a week again? We've been doing them on Tuesdays at 1, if that works,
California or Florida?
you know? Does that work for everybody?
What day?
Next
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
The 18th. At 1 o'clock,
What time's that Third Street meeting?
3 o'clock,
It is at 3 o'clock.
What are we looking at?
Tuesday the 18th,
Is that meeting here, Third Street?
correct, yes.
So we'd have to be done by 3.
Yes, we have time limit on that day. That
So 1 o'clock on the 18th.
work for everybody?
Hmm.
That still gives us Tuesday the 25th, and Steve's still in town that day.
Sounds like a
And
plan.
hopefully it won't take. maybe very long.
1 o'clock on the 18th?
Yes,
Rain. It's gonna be a busy day.
Are you, do you have another job that day or are you gonna be good?
I'm gonna be at the front of the court till noon, and then I will be here at 1.
Laura was gonna provide lunch,
He's,
especially.
yeah, he's a busy man.
Could we have at that meeting also maybe somebody from F and P, F and B?
Yeah,
And anybody else we think we might need that we can throw a question to that we don't have?
well,
Kath would probably. zoom
maybe
in.
Dawn, but how much do you wanna pay her to sit through this meeting?
If you guys have questions for Dawn, please feel free to let me know or email them to me and I'll reach out to her with a question list. Happy to do that. I've been in a good conversation with her.
I would like to, just for what it's worth, and I completely understand the need to balance the budget. I can't vote yes on a budget that's not balanced. In fact, I don't even think we can legally do that.
Well,
And so
here's the
my only-
interesting fact,
My-
with
my-
the enterprise system, talking to the auditor,
Anyway,
the water sewer fund is not required to have a budget as an enterprise fund.
interesting, interesting. Well, anyway, where I was gonna go with the whole thing is
Plus another
I think
part of my
that
hair.
if we,
Another bird here.
I think we have to be really, really cognizant of the stress that we put on our customers. So it's not like they're gonna go anywhere. We sort of control the purse strings there, but it can have negative ramifications on any other things that we might be looking to do.
Well, that's what you'll find out from Dawn, isn't it? How much,
Yeah,
Boils
where's
down
the
to
pressure
proof.
point?
yeah,
And that's what we've been working on. That's, like I said, she has a working model, which is where we came up with the 10% and the 3%. And that extrapolated over 5 years and what that looks like. And we we're just discussing 1 year at a time, knowing that the numbers may need to be adjusted. But we do have to pay attention to the fact that if you adjust the rates by 40%, we're gonna have problems, like
absolutely.
rates being challenged.
Well, we've got to, but sometimes, and I'm not talking about 40%, I'm talking about, the difference between, say, a 10% and a 50%. How many dollars per month or per quarter even does that compute to with 2,200 or 2,300 water customers?
And that again depends on how much they're using.
Mhm.
The minimum usage people are gonna be different than what our high usage customers
I
are.
think I know I'm past minimum usage.
Are you?
I don't think so. I get a $200 and some dollar
Oh,
bill every quarter.
I mean, if you just took the water bill and increased it 30%, $10. Like mine is $300, so it's gonna cost me $30 more. Or if we went a flat 10% across the board. Then I don't like $30, but
Maybe 40, wouldn't it? But,
or
and $10, $10 a quarter.
Yeah, on the Mon water bill, next bill would come and be 30, yeah, it's a quarter, so. $300. My bill comes, on round numbers, $300, so if we increase it 10%, I'm gonna have to pay another $30 on that bill.
Right, that's my point, is that,
That's,
you spread $40 over a year.
and if you're gonna break it down on monthly, now it's only $10 a month.
In this case, you can't very well increase it by a dollar amount. You still have to do it by a percentage.
I
Right, and that's what I'm
understand.
working with Don to do. That's what we are doing. That's where the 10 and the 3 came from.
But you're right, though, Norm, as you work backwards from how many more dollars do we need? Work back and then you spread it, and then you figure out what the percentage is.
Yeah, don't be afraid to raise the rates. No matter what you raise them, they're gonna complain. I don't care if it's 2 cents or $200, they're gonna complain. So.
Right.
You get what you can when you can get it. And now it's not so much when we can get it, it's what we have to get. We're at a point where. We have to raise the rates. The question is. How much, we know how much we have to raise them, but we don't want to do that number yet. Well, we need to do a number. But like I say, stretch it out 2, 3 years, but you better get the first lick in on that first one.
And I just use my rain barrel first flush in the toilet.
Right, well,
You didn't-
on that note. Anybody have anything else? Are you doing any mathing over there?
No,
Okay.
no.
We like these Tuesday.
Yeah, we do.
So when is our next meeting?
Maybe 18.
I have to put it on.
I think so.
Significant.
Back to sound it off
I think you're gonna
familiar to
find
what
out
we were saying
that's gonna
about
have to be a
So
significant.
I'm just gonna
raise.
tell you that based on the number that was artificially in place for this year, the increase was 22.
Yeah, 22.
22%
And it's
from
still,
the budget year from the 23-24 budget year, just to make that number balance. You would have had to do a 22% increase,
on top of that,
yes, from
Yeah.
previous.
pretty
So
significant.
that's, we're trying to adjust that into what this 10%, 3% thing.
I mean, sometimes you have to tear the Band-Aid off. I get it, but
That's a big wound.
that's gonna leave a mark.
Mhm. Yeah, we can't do that all in
No.
one year. Yeah, but
That's why, well, that is why we're at 10%. It's a manageable number and it will get us out of the red in 2 years.
yeah, you were talking 30, you were talking about 10%
Yes.
per quarter.
I was 30, I was mentioned 30.
10% on top of the 10%.
It's
For the-
20%.
For the fiscal year 23-24, the number that was in the budget, the revenue was $300 and something thousand overestimated. And in order to get to that number, we would have had to do last year for the current year that we're in, a rate increase of over 20% just to get that number.
And we did no rating.
There was no increase.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So that's,
That's helpful information.
yeah, so that's where we're at, why we're at, where we're at, and why we're gonna do the increases, and then. I don't know if that looks like, on top of the 10% increase, then we're also looking at inflation rate on top of it. I'm not sure yet, but we're working on that.
So what about none of any of this has to do with the service fee or the infiltration fee, or how does that? affect
Well,
them?
it does, the service fee and the filtration fee, it doesn't have to do with the rate increase, but that's that adjusts our numbers. When we decided that the infiltration fee would go only to sewer, Nathan Little explained that to us earlier. And then the service fee gets broken down based on the customer base, which is what we're actually doing right now and separating the funds. So instead of 100% of I'm not sure where the money is right now, let's say 100% of it goes into water, okay?
Actually, 100% of it goes into sewer.
Right, so we already know that their sewer revenue is not correct because.
It's
that
overinflated.
The infiltration should be there, yes, 100%. The service shouldn't be, because some of that service is water as well.
So that should be
So
50/50.
It shouldn't be 50/50, and the way that we're breaking that down is, the way that Dawn previously had it broken down is 56% to 44% based on revenue. But the way that it correctly should be broken down is the number of water customers. And that percentage gets taken out of the service charge and goes to water. And then whatever is left over, the number of sewer customers then goes to sewer. And the ones that are both, that gets.
You can split equally.
Right, so that's the appropriate, correct way to do that. And that's what we're doing, that's why she's offering the rates. Then. I mean, not good, but you know, at least you guys can.
I
have
can
better-
boil my rainwater.
You're gonna boil your rainwater.
I gotta boil mine too. Okay.
Big birds.
I'm gonna keep my well.
Yeah.
The same. My yard's gonna look awful next year.
Second opportunity for public comment. Being none online and none in person. Any other discussion?
No.
Next meeting is next Tuesday, February 18th at 1 o'clock in the Community Room.
Motion to adjourn.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Beautiful. Meeting adjourned at 2:22.